So many people ask me, where did Jesus say, "I am God," or "worship me"? This is a common Muslim argument. Now you have to understand something. The Jewish people did not call God God, they called him Yahweh. But since Yahweh was such a holy name, they started to call him Adonai, which means the Lord. But some translations, like in Latin, they use the name Jehovah, which means the Lord. But God's true name that he revealed to Moses at the burning bush was Yahweh, which the definition of Yahweh is, "I am who I am," or "the great I am." But if the Jewish people do not call God God, then why in the Bible is the word God used? You have to understand that the Gospels were not written. In only Hebrew they were written in Greek. Greek had the word God, or as they would say it, Theos, so the Greeks would call Yahweh Theos to relate to other people who spoke Greek. But where did Jesus boldly say that he is Yahweh? The clearest example would be John chapter 10 verse 38, when Jesus said, "Before Abraham was, I am." Now many Muslims will say, this is not clear enough, but to the Jewish people, they knew exactly what Jesus meant. They picked up stones to stone him for blasphemy. If it was not a blasphemous claim, why did the Jewish people pick up stones to stone him? We also see Jesus saying, "Because you've seen me, you've seen the Father." Jesus is clearly claiming to be God. The Muslims will laugh at this and say, he's not claiming to be God. But no person in the Muslim faith can say, "Because I've seen you," that I've seen a true reflection of Allah. They wouldn't say it because they're not God. But the best example for Jesus claiming to be God leaves Muslims speechless. This is commonly found within the book of Revelation, but before we do, let's look into the Quran and see what Allah calls himself. Al-Hadid 57:3. He is the first and the last. So we see Allah gave himself the title, the first and the last, which is a divine title only given to God. Now if we look into the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verses 17 to 18. When I, John, saw Jesus, I fell at his feet as though dead. Then he placed his right hand on me and said, "Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades." Jesus is clearly calling himself God by using the title only God could use. And Muslims have to accept this, because if they don't accept this as a divine title, then they cannot use that title for their God. But where does it say in the Bible, "Worship me"? My friends, the exact word "worship me" is not found in the Bible, because if Jesus claimed to be God, that would mean the people would worship him without asking for it. But I will actually show you where Jesus says that you should worship him. John chapter 5 verse 23. That all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father, who sent him. Now what does Jesus mean here? He's clearly saying that if you pray to the Father, you should pray to me. If you worship the Father, you should worship me. That's what Jesus is saying, that all should worship the Son as they worship the Father. So indeed, Jesus is saying, worship me as you worship God. Now to those who still don't believe that Jesus is God, Jesus didn't even have to claim to be God, because he showed it by his actions. For an example, he forgave 2 people of their sins. Only God can forgive sins. I know what Muslims will say, "Oh, they did something wrong to him, so then he said your sins are forgiven." No, that's not what he means. He is saying all the sins that you've committed, you are forgiven of. We see this with a paralyzed man in the Gospel of Mark chapter 2 verse 5, but we also see he forgives a woman of her sins in the Gospel of Luke chapter 7 verse 48. Nobody has the authority to judge or to forgive sins, but God alone, and the Jewish people knew this.